do you feel like there's going to be a little bit of a, how should like age war among fans?
Yeah.
You youngs don't know what it was like with Dick McPherson or, whomever, or, you don't remember what it was like when Dante was the interim coach, which really wasn't that long ago. It was in like the, late 80s, early 90s or something like that. But it kind of feels like now there are some of the older fans that are like, hey, you youngs, you have no idea. You just watch. Like there is that sort of doom that I admit I'm kind of feeling today. It's like, do I really trust them to not screw it up?
So you see, I woke up with this, with the excited about change. I was excited about change. Like I was like, okay, this is like, when I had this whole conversation with Courtney this morning, and Wiggy about, with Greg about the whole, Courtney's whole point was like, Bill would never leave, and he's got his daughter here and his kids here, and he's got this, he's got that. He's like, why would he want to go to like Atlanta? And I was like, part of me, like sometimes change, as scary as it is so much of a really fun, cool adventure. Ask Brady. I mean, ask anybody who, like I asked myself, I went from the northwest to the northeast. It couldn't be any farther. Tampa was the other option. I was like, man, let's just make it an adventure. And everything's new. You're excited. Your ride-in is different. The restaurants are different. The fans are different. Your coaching staff is different. Everything's different. The climate is different. Your division is different. It's your owner's different. Like there is a newfound, I don't know, maybe like energy that you get by trying and going somewhere completely foreign to you. So would Bill be resistant to it at first? Maybe. I don't know. Probably. Because, the comfort is the familiarity of your life. Like, there's comfort there. You know what to expect. Same guy hands you your coffee and your donut every single day.
Most people don't like change.
They don't like it. I welcome it.
Yeah, me too.
I welcome it. It's and I think that Bill and Brady, I thought, was such a really good example of that because he went to such a different location and he just jumped into it with both feet. Brand new team. He was the only, usually it's like he's the only new guy, so he has to kind of assimilate. He has to change. And it just worked out perfectly.
No, instead he told all them, yeah, I'm great.
Yeah.
I got rings, you're changing, and here's how you're going to do it. And if you do it that way, we'll win. And sure enough, they did.
And I think about that, like the same effect that Brady had on the Bucs, Bill will have on this team. I can only imagine, like,
a new organization.
Say a guy who's been in the league and his last two coaches he's played for Atlanta, his last two coaches have been Dan Quinn and Arthur Smith. Okay? And then you've been there 7 years. Maybe you've been there 4 years. You've had both. You've had different coordinators. And then this dude jumps up in the front and just starts drawing it up and explaining it, and you're literally your jaws on the floor going, and you're probably saying to yourself, "This is what it was supposed to look and sound like," and you're amazed that you feel like cheated because I wasn't getting this. This is how the good coaches do it. This is what they say. This is the protocol. This is the teaching. This is the structure. Holy crap. We thought we were close. We were so far away.
And you realized that once you got here, right?
I absolutely did. Then I realized it again when I left. When I left, I was like, holy crap. This is the wild, wild west up in here. Everyone just do whatever the hell they want. This isn't a professional business. This is just an adult version of college football.
It's lawless.
It was legitimately like that. I was like, we're never going to win. Not a chance in hell. And neither team won.
Can I ask you a question? How many guys on the Panthers and the then Redskins picked your brain on?
All of them.
Everybody had questions about Bill.
You know who was who was picking my brain the most? It was almost like
John Fox.
No. I think John had a relationship with Bill at some point.
No, they do. I think they've both talked.
He
about
was great, by the way. It was Gibbs and his crew. Now, Gibbs and his crew were the same crew back in the '80s that were coaching those Redskins teams against Parcells and Bill. So there was this unbelievable like hatred for each other and dislike, but it was the same guys back in the 80s. He brought them all back.
Joe Bugle.
Yep.
Richie Pettibone, was he on that
there
staff?
Was the tight ends coach I forgot what his name is. His name was Rennie something.
Yep.
They were all old as dirt. All of them were so old.
Here's Ernie Zampese.
I mean, honest to God, and I sat this, our little conference table back there?
Oh, yeah.
Bigger than that. Tapes on, everything, and they just, each one took a turn asking me questions about practice, about habits, about play calling, philosophy, every single one of them. Now,
before or after you signed?
I had already signed.
Oh, okay, so you were committed, signed. So you had to give it up.
Yeah, I'd already signed. But then it was very odd because now being the wily vet that I am,
yeah, you know what you're
I
doing.
made a point to drive home the fact that we never practice in pads. That's the. I made sure, and I used this stat that my old tight ends coach, Jeff Davidson, gave me back when we won in 03 and 04. He's like, nah, I got to make up the number because I don't remember. But it was like, hey, do you know how many padded practices we had in those last 2 years? I was like, no, he was like 8. So really, I was like, wow. It was like we were never in pads, and we were physical, we were tough, we were smart. I was like, yeah, the problem is you guys are practicing too hard. So sure as hell, they take the pads off, and nobody has a clue what they're doing. Everybody's getting hurt. They're running into each other. Like, guys are literally thinking that they're in pads, and nobody is brother-in-law the other one, and everyone's trying to win every single one. I'm like, this is not how it works.
I love it that you said that because it drives home, like, some of the stuff that we will kind of bark about every once in a while, whereas people have a concept that turns into an idea, but do you know how to sort of execute it?
They didn't have a clue.
To your point, it was, hey, we never practiced in pads. Oh, great, we'll just do it that way. And that's where it all kind of stops. And then there is well, how do you get the most out of practice with no pads? How do you then structure practice? There's all the different layers of okay, now tell me more. They just heard we never practiced. Ooh, put
Gresh,
that on the board.
there were running backs running into linebackers full speed.
What?
I was
Almighty.
on.
No common sense.
Who was the guy that ended up dying? I forgot the safety.
Sean Taylor.
Sean Taylor. God rest his soul. I did not like him. Again, we're in shells. No one needs to get knocked out in a Wednesday practice in shells. Calm down. Didn't get it. I was like, this place is nuts. It was nuts. No, to your point, they just didn't know how to practice. So if Bill goes anywhere, all these guys are literally going to get a doctorate in football.
As you're telling this story, you know what my fear is? Is that the guys who get left behind don't have that Bill to turn to say, well, if we don't practice in pads, how do we get X, Y, and Z done?
Well, that doesn't exist. You don't have that problem
I know
because it's regulated.
But whatever the problem of the day is, right? Whatever the concept or idea of the day, and you need to spit shine it, polish it, fine tune it. Who is there to do that kind of stuff? Who is going to be the thinker to say, yeah, well, what are you going to do when this happens? Because to me, that's where Bill Belichick, he doesn't have maybe all the answers all the time, but to me, he can envision what are the problems going to be? How can we kind of work around them?
Yeah. And the first guy I would hire, if I'm a head coach, would be one guy, and his only job was to help manage the clock. And that would be it. His whole job would be to get in my ear and be like, okay, these are your 3 options. I would want somebody who was like a savant, like Ernie Adams.
Yep.
He did a lot of that. He had his headset on. He was up in the booth. Hey, challenge it. Don't challenge it. Hey, if you do challenge it, here's what happens. I just looked at the review. Don't do it. Like, hey, the 30 seconds left on the clock. You only got one timeout. You have to burn one now. Do it now. Timeout. I would definitely have a guy like that.
So you really need a game day operations kind of manager.
Yeah, that only talks to me.
That only talks to the head coach. That's it.
Because the other thing with Gibbs, which was nuts, is everybody was yelling over everybody. Everybody, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, they were all yelling. They were all trying to tell Gibbs what to do. All of them. do this, do that. And he'd be like, I can't hear y'all at the same time.
It sounds like I do believe, because Nick said in my ear that Buddy Hackett, they did that for him because he was so bad in the first 3 weeks of managing a game or 4 weeks that they had to.
The crowd was counting down the play clock.
Yeah,
they had to.
And he was ridiculed for hiring this clock coach.
Oh, but he's an offensive guy, and he was an OC, even though he didn't call plays. Mike McDaniel worked. Yeah, well, I'm not. You take a kick at the can with Arthur Smith and Buddy Hackett and who's this guy, Bo Cephas Johnson or whatever it is with Detroit now. He's the next. He's the next pick to click guy that somebody's going to jump on.